What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to another Mongil Star Dive video. I promised you guys, and we're going to actually deliver today. We're going to talk about combat and team building, and I think this is a very important one, including some link chains and how they work and what you want to focus on as a either free-to-play player or a pay-to-win player, and what the future of the game will hold and how you're going to mold your team, essentially, right? Okay, so you guys can see I'm a free-to-play player at the moment. I don't have anything here in terms of pay-to-win, but I do plan to make a pay-to-win account for testing purposes so I can give you guys the best results in terms of tier lists, etc., 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 right? So, but right now we're going to focus strictly on the free-to-play side and how I'm building my teams and how I advise you guys to do the same and why this is all going to matter, including how link chains work, how some of the combat mechanics work, and how you can get the most bang for your buck in regards to doing the combat properly and dishing out the most amount of damage. All right, now before I go any further, guys, I'm always going to talk about this, so you may as well be ready for it every single time. Content creator program. It is going on still, guys. We are number 8 ranked right now, 274. I believe maybe a little higher than that now. Let's double check. Let's just refresh. I think we're a little higher than that. 329 supporters. Make sure you get yourselves in, guys. The reason why you want to do this and support, number 1, it's free. Number 2, it's helped me out. And number 3, I get to help you out, right? Which means I'm going to be able to provide you guys awesome codes. We have 2 codes that are currently going to be coming out for you, and anyone who's a supporter, it will be sent to your account here, and you can redeem it in the game afterwards and take advantage. So guys, it's pinned in every single description and every single comment section. So make yourselves, you know, get yourselves into this essentially, and just support your boy, and I'll definitely support you guys right back. So thank you so much for all those who are supporting right now. I want to say a big shout out to everybody here. NID 2817 Shaft 7730 Albatross 5037 5130 Blackout 500 2330 2669 and not Leos. I appreciate everybody here supporting all the way down to the last 329th member. Okay, so sorry about the spiel. I'm going to probably say this quite often, so get used to it. All right, here we go, guys. Team building. Let's talk a little bit about that first, because that's going to be important. Now, you're going to have multiple characters here with different kinds of designs, different ranks, different elements, different classes, and this is going to matter quite a bit. And I want to talk about these first, okay? So first off, ideally, you want to have the ability when you build a team to build a team with 3 different characters that have 3 different roles. Okay, so this team, for example, is a different elemental team for each element, and they all possess a different fighting style. So number 1, I have a ranged destroyer and flare, right? You guys can see she's fire ranged, but she is a destroyer. And if you click this little button here, it'll actually tell you exactly what each class does. So feel free to click that button, guys, to familiarize yourself with what each class will be able to do. So your DPS classes are usually going to be fighter and assassin, and then you're going to have your destroyers, who are actually hybrid class for DPS, and then your support, which can do a little bit of everything, but are really there to heal or give you guys buffs or provide debuffs to the opponents, right? So let's go through this. Fighter excels in the chaos of melee battles where allies and enemies clash. Brawl damage increased based on the fighter's proficiency. Fighter's fight proficiency. So this is important. Fighter fight proficiency, which is the boots, for example, that gives you the fighter proficiency, matters a lot, and these guys obviously all scale off of brawl damage. So very important, and also attack, of course, right? So you want to make sure you look at these stats, especially when you're building these fighters. Now, assassins, on the other hand, excel in dealing massive burst damage. Think of the word burst when you think of massive damage. By exploiting an enemy's opening, suppression damage increases based on the assassin's proficiency. So these guys are all about suppression damage, so keep that in mind. Destroyers excel in boss battles. Neutralization damage increase based on the destroyer's proficiency. So again, neutralization damage, very important for destroyers, and they are great at staggering. And the reason why they're good at boss battles, because boss battles last long, and you want to do as much stagger damage as possible to bosses, and we'll talk more about those bars very shortly. All right, and lastly, support. Excel in supporting the team. Support damage increase based on the support's support proficiency, okay? All of this stuff matters. The reason why I read this out to you guys, because many people don't know that button even exists. So important to remember that. Now, when you're building your team in the beginning, you're not going to have a choice, guys. You're going to want to build a non-mono team, essentially, which means all elements apply. As long as the character brings you what you need, you're going to be okay to go. Now, what matters later on is building a proper mono team. So let me give you an example of a mono team here that you could build right now with my setup, right? So let's just say I want to build a fire team. So right away, I'm going to look at, okay, I need a destroyer, so I'm going to put a destroyer in. So flare is going to be number 1. Now, I need a good assassin DPS. This character Liho, who's also a male by the way, is fantastic, and I'm going to put this together. I'm going to show you guys why this works really well. And then lastly, if I had a fire support, I'd use that fire support, but because I don't have a fire support, I would normally end up putting in either a fighter to give myself a little bit more damage here, or if I don't need the support, I could put in just any support that's there. So Francis would be available as well too, right? So any of these units would apply. But let's just say I want to build a mono team here to do maximum output of damage, right? So I would take, let's say, Francis out, and I would put in, let's say, Angel. So I have double assassins here, and I'd have a destroyer, or I would take her out and put a fighter, so I have some sort of melee damage. Now, let's talk about why this team it works really well. So first off, let's go through Liho first. So Liho is actually fantastic because of the skills that he provides and the debuffs he also gives you. So first off, you guys can see here, his basic attack is a hold attack. He does fire damage. He does something called, if the enemy he targets has prey mark, flash spear does not need time to charge, so you can instantly do it. And then when prey mark is removed, then Liho is granted Tiger Hunter, and all of these things all do specific moves. So increases basic attack damage. Also, Liho's basic attack is enhanced during effects duration, deals powerful fire damage. If Tiger Hunter ends during enhanced basic attack, Liho strikes the ground and dealing fire damage again, etc. Right? So there's quite a bit that he offers in just his basic attacks. Now his special skill also does a lot of fire damage. Now the cool thing about this though is he has a switch skill which does blazing flash, and he also has a passive trait here. Whenever he inflicts prey mark on enemies, all of their fire resistance is lowered. Okay, and that's really, really important to note that fire resistance reduction is 5%, and as you increase that, it'll go up higher. Now his ultimate skill also provides fire affliction, in this case reducing fire resistance decreased by 15% and also doing fire damage over time. Now this unit right here is a DPS, but he also provides something that a fire team desperately will need, and that's fire resistance down. So that will now increase all of Flair's damage for all of her fire moves, right? And she also provides fire affliction, which will also reduce the opponent's fire damage down. So you can keep this up almost at all times at this point, and you guys can see all of this stuff here is all boosted with fire damage. And again, she also does provide Dragon Mark as well too. So all of this stuff is provided together, and this team works really well because they continuously keep fire resistance down, allowing all of you guys to continuously put out like awesome damage. So very important, guys, to note that. Now with Verna, the reason why you want to look at her, actually there we go. She has one fire damage skill, the second fire damage skill. So basic attacks, total damage boost upon landing an additional strike. So all attacks, so you can see she converts all of it to fire here with her passive traits. And Verna gathers fire energy and does fire damage and also causes fire affliction. So things like that are important. So building a mono team makes a big difference. So let's take an example of a wind team, right? If you had, for example, right over here, where is she? Right there. Right, this character. So this is Bonnie. She is a wind range support. She does provide a lot of wind resistance and also wind damage. So you want to put her with my main DPS with Sengun. So when you are building teams, eventually you're gonna want to get away from building your multiple elemental teams and start focusing on monochromatic elemental teams. Okay, so that's the team building aspect of it, and I want to go through that with you guys very thoroughly. And ideally, again, you want to have a support, a destroyer, and a fighter or an assassin, or you can take a destroyer out, or you can take a support out if you don't need them, because you can put in 2 DPS and a destroyer, and if they're managing things, they're fine. I will say this: end game, you're gonna need a support, guys. Healing is going to be essential end game. Enemies hit hard, you're going to get hit hard, you're going to want to heal and survive, and also don't forget, always have food. Okay, that's the team building aspect that I wanted to go over. Now, link chains. Let's talk about those real quick, because a lot of people have been asking about link chains. So link chains in combat, I'll show you guys how they work. For example, every single like boss or mini boss that you capture is going to be the ability to transform into one of your monsterlings. When you equip them, they also will appear in battle if you meet a certain condition. Okay, let me go through some of these conditions for you guys so we can kind of put this together. So for example, if I wanted to use, I'm currently using, where is he? Here. I believe it's this monster. This one? I'm pretty sure it's this one. No, it's not. It's actually, where is he? Sorry, let me find, there. I'm using him. Okay, Broken Fang, Tag Lock. So Tag Lock is one of my link chains because he's got fantastic stats for me right now, and I'm using it as a monster link. So how do you use this? So you can see if Tag Lock monster link is equipped, so you have to equip the monster link part of it. It appears when its appearance condition is met. It jumps toward the enemy and strikes its hammer down, dealing physical damage and rendering the enemy airborne. How do you do this? Using a switch skill. So whenever you switch with the character that has this equipped, this monster will jump into the battle and actually perform its move. So let's just show you guys how that works. All right, let me go into a battle here, and we'll show you guys some of the mechanics. All right, so I'm gonna jump in, and we're gonna go ahead and find a battle here, and we're gonna show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so here, let's just say I want to do this. If I switch in right there, you see he just jumped in right there. Look, boom, he's doing an attack. There you go. So that's how you do it. So Sengun has the Monster Link equipped at the moment, and because he had it equipped and I was able to perform the switch skill with him, it instantly brought in tag lock. Okay, so all these conditions need to be met for this to work. If you're not meeting the conditions, the link chains will not work, and many of them are different, right? Some of them are going to be like, hey, like you have to render the enemy airborne, for example, or this one here is when you get hit, the green cappy will come out. That's an interesting one. There's one here where using evasion counter or using evasion counter, right? So they're all good landing an ice attack. So all of these stuff are going to make sense to you as you go through it, but read the captions, guys, because they all make a pretty significant difference in terms of having these guys come out and help you out. So make sure if you are planning to do this, you focus on equipping the right unit with the right skill. So for example, you'll never want to equip a ice unit or non-ice unit with this Warrior's Mark Lupe unless the stats are what you're looking for. If you don't care about the link chain, then he's never going to come out, because unless you do an ice damage, he's not going to come out, right? So landing an ice attack is the only way to make Lupe come out. So all of your ice units are going to be the one to use him, no one else. Very important to note that about link chains. Okay, let's go back in here and talk a little bit about combat. So things to note about combat. I personally like to start off with my support always, and when my support goes in and does damage and does all of their debuffs and buffs, then I switch out to something else, right? So for example, Francis right now has equipped a wind resistance item, allowing her to perform any form of wind resistance, giving Sengun a lot more damage. So he's my main DPS. I've been focusing on him more than anybody else, and because he's my main DPS, I want to build my supports around making sure that he does really well, right? So wind suppression is going to be something that I'm going to focus on with him. And right here, you guys can see, once she does her move, you're going to see something pop up. It's going to say wind suppression on it very shortly, right? So here, we'll switch out in a second. Okay. Here, so whatever you need to do to make your buffs and debuffs work, right? And then once you get that combat in, you'll notice that all of your buffs will say it on the screen. So your buffs and debuffs will show on the screen. Nothing there happened. Unfortunately, nothing was met. No conditions were met that time. But a couple things to note. I always say start off with your support, get your buffs and debuffs in, and then switch out to your DPS. Now, I don't normally use, there you go, this is my link chain. I don't normally use my destroyer in battle unless it's an AoE fight with flare. And then I start using her, especially if I need to do a break, okay? A couple things to note about dodging. There is a stamina bar, right? The stamina bar is right there. If you run in the red, you see how it's yellow right now? If you run in the red, you cannot attack, okay? You see right there what just happened? There's a little icon that just popped up on the opponent, the yellow diamond that just occurred. When that happens, you need to dodge perfectly and then press an attack button. And once you perform that attack, it will actually do an animation which knocks the enemy back. So watch it again here. See, that's a regular dodge. Here, we'll do a proper counter. There, right there. And then you hit, boom, right? The opponent gets staggered a little bit and they get hit back. That can be a very, very critical part of the game, and one that can push enemies further away. And at the same time, it'll push the it'll do a special animation that can actually do AoE damage to a lot of opponents. Now, you see the white bar underneath the health bar of the boss? You guys can see that is the stagger bar. So destroyers here are significantly good at destroying. Right there, you see when you break the stagger bar, Nayers comes out and you perform circle twice, and now everybody comes in to do attacks. And this is important because the boss takes more damage. You have the entire stagger meter to do all of your moves to kill the boss off much faster. Okay, so you guys can see everybody was there at the same time, and everybody performed their skills, basic attacks, etc. So getting the stagger bar down quickly is vital to your success in this game. Having yourself a destroyer will make that happen a lot quicker. Having yourself just 2 DPS will not allow that to come out quicker. So sometimes, guys, it's not smart to put the 2 DPS. Sometimes it is good to balance your team out so everybody can perform their roles, and bosses will take stagger damage more, and you'll do a lot more damage with that ability, with the stagger, than you would having 2 DPSs out there. Okay, so those are the important things I wanted to kind of talk about. Outside of that, guys, always look at what skills you want to perform first. Always try to get your debuffs in on the bosses before performing anything big, and also always perform your buffs as well too with your supports before jumping in with your DPS. That is a critical aspect of this game. And also, if you can, save your ultimates during the stagger phase. That's the best form of damage you can do, unless you use someone like Sangun, whose ultimate actually does AoE, and it builds up a tier of basic attacks going faster. His case is a little bit different. Most other units though, you do want to save your ultimates during the stagger phase. So if you can get stagger up as much as possible, you're going to do a buttload of damage in comparison to not doing it at all. All right, in case I missed anything, guys, please let me know. Remember, switching is possible. You guys can see down there my health bar is flashing. So whenever you want to switch a character in, it's a good way to do iframes to avoid damage. So if you are struggling with the battle, switching characters back and forth often with their iframes and letting them perform their moves is a great way to avoid damage and also avoid getting hurt. And plus, you do a little bit of more chip damage on the way. So do try to go back and forth as much as you can. Just don't interfere with your ultimates. Like for example, for Sangun, don't take him out during his ultimate. You want to build tier 3 as fast as possible and do as much damage as you possibly can. But with other characters, it's fine. You guys can switch out, and that actual character that you switch out with usually stays on the field and does damage as well. All right, folks, I hope this was useful. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. I'll be making more resource guides, how to do combining, how do you do cooking, and we're going to talk about conquest and pass and everything else along the way, plus some more content coming your way from Mongil Star Dive. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.